Welcome back to Breakfast Television. It's 7:24. If you are in a relationship right now, stop what you're doing. We've got some very important advice for you. Deborah Beroset, communication expert, is joining us right now on the BT Couch to talk about the impact that finances and financial troubles can have on your relationship. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So people will say, love is enough. It doesn't matter. You know, it says it in the wedding vows, richer for poorer. But the reality, Deborah, is that this can be extremely detrimental.
Well, you know, it's difficult in the best of times to remember to communicate fully with our partner, and sometimes when circumstances are a little stressful, it's even harder. But when a couple works together in terms of really communicating openly and honestly, all kinds of things are possible.
Because we have seen in the past, and I know this is from personal experience, friends have told me this, sometimes when there are financial strains, one partner will maybe hide something from another or not tell if they're spending too much. So communication is key, but also maybe having a plan ahead of time, maybe not waiting for things to go terribly wrong.
Well, that would be great. I mean, one of the things that we teach in our programs is that the quality of your life is determined only 1% by what actually happens and 99% by how we respond to what happens. And when couples are facing some kind of stressor like financial difficulties in a tough economy, what happens is they don't just deal with what happens, we all add stories and meaning and conclusions to what happens, and then we act like what we made up is real, and that's where we get into trouble.
Okay, which is important because I think it's a way that we try to justify how we got to a certain point.
Yes.
To make ourselves feel better, maybe?
Yes,
or,
well, oftentimes, you know, we'll respond with either shame or guilt, or we want to blame ourselves or someone else or the situation. What's really powerful and what we have people in our programs do is a simple exercise that makes all the difference, where if you have the two people and you just sit down together and you say, okay, well, what are the actual facts, you know, instead of what we've made up. So perhaps one of you has been laid off, or maybe you have X fewer dollars in your savings than you did a year ago.
Maybe you spent too much.
Maybe you spent too much. But here's the point. It's what did we actually spend versus you're not good with money, or versus we're in huge financial trouble and we'll never recover.
So I have to ask you, because talking about money is uncomfortable for most people,
yes,
right? It is, though, a very important part of planning your life and making responsible decisions. How does one actually have this conversation? A lot of the times one of the partners is more financially responsible than the other, and the other partner doesn't want to hear it. I'm speaking about myself because my husband's always planning, and I'm like, oh, whatever. You know, how does one start this conversation?
Yes.
Is honesty and the best policy in this
case?
case?
A great way to start the conversation is by actually acknowledging to your partner, this is making me a little nervous and I'm a little anxious about having this conversation. And when you actually communicate that, suddenly things get real. And the other person can say, you know, I understand. Maybe you could even make a request and say, you know, I'm a little anxious about maybe you saying something about my spending. I want to really deal with it. Can we just sit down and look at what are the facts? And that makes a huge difference, is being authentic with your partner.
Being authentic with your partner. Things that I will definitely be keeping in mind. Deborah Beroset, thank you so much for joining us. Again, communications expert and seminar leader for Landmark Worldwide. Very important tips. You can't run away from financial problems. May as well face them.
You might as well.
And try and to prevent them. Thank you
Exactly.
again.
Thank you.
All right.